They had to be amputated because it was all dead tissue. You forget how bad things were before we had vaccines.
I didn't step forward for that because I don't like the assumption that if a child is unvaccinated, somehow they are of risk to everyone. And also knowing that vaccinated individuals can also be carrying and spreading diseases, I think it's very polarizing to separate the two as if you're vaccinated, you're totally fine. You're not risking anybody anything. Unvaccinated children don't just have diseases hanging out in their bodies waiting to unload at any moment. Anybody could be spreading diseases, especially things like polio and pertussis that are not completely covered by the vaccine.
Yo, what's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of Out the Box Podcast. Come on, guys. Today, we got the two legends that be.
Hey, how we doing, people? It's GNG News. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode today. If you are enjoying, obviously, the series that we've done so far, go and check back through the playlist. And big shout out to the panel. Let's have a good conversation.
People them. Yeah, you know who it is. Manlike. Hope you enjoyed the episode today. Let's get going.
Yeah, boy. So we're on episode 7, guys. Today, we are going to be doing it slightly different. We're going to be watching and reacting, and maybe giving opinions to a video. And what we're going to be looking at today is pro-vaccine against anti-vaccine.
Yes.
This is a very, very interesting subject at the moment. Two sides. I feel as well that, you know, the anti-vax side has been kind of suppressed and kind of been, you know, censored a lot. But, you know, you find little bits, I suppose, here and there of things. Boom. So this one is more to do with children again, and this is very important now because, you know, children are the future and we want to give them the best opportunity in life. So here we go.
I wish there was just more compassion. No, we don't want to make something difficult. We just want to be acknowledged. My daughter was a victim and she's being punished.
Hi, my name is Marissa Gold. I am a parent. I have 2 girls, 10 and 13, and I'm also a parenting expert with my own parenting company, Intuit Parenting.
My name is David Epstein, and I'm a pediatric intensive care physician.
I'm Gary Schliffer. I'm an internal medicine physician.
Pause it.
Did you just hear that name as well as I did? Did you just hear that name? David Epstein is this man's name. Go back and replay that.
With my own parenting company, Intuit Parenting.
My name is David Epstein.
Oh man. Listen, people, we're not saying that they're related or not. It was just a short, sharp shot.
Before we go any further as well, the first lady, she said something about being a
parenting expert.
Parenting expert. I can't wait to hear her views. She's gonna have some lovely things about being a pro-vaccinator.
And I'm a pediatric intensive care physician.
I'm Gary Schliffer. I'm an internal medicine physician.
I'm Bob.
Pause it again. Did you hear his profession?
What?
Go back to his profession and listen.
My name is David Epstein, and I'm a pediatric intensive care physician.
I'm Gary Schliffer. I'm an internal medicine physician.
I'm Bob Sears.
I swear, ain't that like pediatrician?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably maybe a special part of her.
Oh, doctor.
Kids. Doctor for kids, yeah.
Yeah. It's not looking good for my guy, right?
I'm a pediatrician. I guess my greatest passion is just to help encourage full, complete, informed consent for vaccinations.
I'm also Marissa. By trade, I am a designer. I am also an activist and a mother.
I'm Melissa Floyd, and I would consider myself an informed consent advocate. I just want to make sure this conversation can be open for people and continue to inform people and to listen to everyone and understand why we each come to our opinion on this.
The first statement is, I am vaccinated.
So I actually wasn't fully vaccinated, interestingly. I grew up with two parents that were into alternative medicine. So I was not vaccinated as a child, but as I got older, I vaccinated myself.
Well, I was vaccinated as a child, but my last vaccine was about 15 years ago when I returned to college, and I had a severe reaction in that I became arthritic in my hands. Went to many, many doctors, and nobody knew what was going on and why it was happening, and just shrugged like, it doesn't make sense, you're too young to have arthritis. And it wasn't until having kids and sort of digging into my own research for them that a lot of answers started coming up, and I think it's unfortunate that a lot of it is overlooked.
For me, and I'll continue to get vaccinated regardless of the risks, because I've seen too many things on the other side. I've seen kids, come into the ICU and die from being, getting the flu. I've always felt like the risks are far outweighed by the benefits of getting the protection.
Yeah, pause it for you. I think
all he said was true. He just said like, because he's seen the other side of it, he would rather go down the vaccine route, which makes sense for a doctor or pediatrician, isn't it? And that's their narrative. They're not going to say anything different from that, realistically.
I get it, but then also like that saying that sentence of like, this is like the severity of what could happen to having a vaccination, and just say no, regardless of it, obviously because of my profession, that just sounds like a paid off answer, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's no consideration for any leadway because the fact that, like I said, he's saying they don't care about the risks. So you got minor risks that probably happen quite common, but then you get very adverse reactions that might happen small, but he just say, I don't care. If 10 kids die, then 10 kids have to die in it. And it's like a bit inconsiderate. As a pediatrician, your thing should be like 100% trying to get the kids to the better place in life, innit? So like, yeah, you're right. It is a bit kind of careless and malice to say something like that.
It's like a write-up, really. It's like,
yeah.
Fine.
Not getting vaccinated endangers other people.
Right. Before we carry on watching it.
Yeah.
Waiting for that boat to come in.
I don't need to hear none of them. I don't even need to hear doctor, yeah? So a vaccination is made to protect yourself, yeah? So if you're vaccinated and you've got someone around you who's unvaccinated, regardless of what they have, you are protected. So it doesn't matter. You're not endangering it. You're not being endangered if you've been vaxxed, basically. So the other thing is they're going to say that obviously it's going to allow the virus to spread more, but we've already seen that people who have been vaccinated still catch the virus.
And we all know on this panel for a fact, right? Someone who has the most up-to-date vaccinations and most up-to-date boosters has the same chance of getting the virus as one of us. So, you know what I mean?
I will acknowledge, of course, as a pediatrician, I know vaccines work. I know they give you protection. They vary greatly in what that protection is. It's not like 100%.
So one other thing, guys, yeah. Before we're talking about all of this, yeah, we just have a quick look at the base, yeah. They're talking about vaccines, and they're talking about real vaccines, yeah, not mRNA vaccines. They're talking about a vaccine which is created via a virus's protein, yeah, and uses your immune system to form a reaction. It's got nothing to do with giving instruction or anything. It's a natural vaccine. So what he's saying is right. Like all the vaccines that we've seen that have been given to kids, they've been tested from 10 to 15 years. They've seen.
We know they won't.
So this hasn't got nothing to do with the COVID vaccine. You can't compare a COVID vaccine and a normal vaccine. They're completely different.
Awesome.
Magical shit
that we're putting on for you today. Don't forget to leave a like on this video.
Jeez, come on!
Don't know.
How are you feeling about the situation? Do you agree with us? Do you not agree with us? And obviously go and smash that subscribe button, because that way you'll be informed each and every single time new content comes out on OTB.
You know this.
Yield over you completely. But I do acknowledge there are some vaccines like the measles vaccine and the chickenpox vaccine. That honestly, if you don't get those vaccines, yeah, you do risk catching the disease and passing it to others.
It's such a complicated topic, vaccines, and you're starting to get micro with each individual vaccine, and definitely the question was talking about the big picture, and I think, yeah, if you get micro, probably some of these vaccines.
You go to picking apart what he was saying with vaccine, and you were talking about micro vaccines.
But they're both pro. But they're both pro-vaccine.
But yeah, but then he's not making the point very well.
I think when you're giving kids medication, you have to get micro about it. I don't think it's doing your kids any service to just say vaccines are all made the same and they're all safe and healthy and good for you, that everybody's benefiting from it, because that's false.
She's 100% right. With sin, yeah, how many pharmaceutical companies have been sued and how much money they have lost because of pharmaceutical medication that's come out and injured human beings, isn't it? So she's right, like you can't just blanket, right, vaccines are good for everyone and everyone needs to be on them. That doesn't make no sense.
Yeah, of course not, due to everyone's health complications and, you know, like, for example, even down to simple things, like some people can't take like penicillin and ibuprofen because there's something inside of it which is, you know, reacts poorly to their body. So yeah, she is right.
But we study them before we release them to the public. We study them, so we do know they're safe. That's the thing, is we
safe-ish.
Well, safer.
You know, being an intensivist, I see the worst of the worst. And so seeing the other side of kids who don't get vaccinated, I saw a kid walk in with meningococcemia, which I haven't seen in decades. He had all 4 limbs.
He's talking about a rare case, but why don't you talk about the kids that have been vaccinated and what they're going through?
My point to this doctor would be, what about all the kids that live amongst children that have COVID and whatever else and don't contract it and are still healthy to this day and haven't been vaccinated? Obviously, I can't ask him this question, you know what I'm saying? But like, he's been very extreme on the other side. So it's funny how, you know, they go straight to extremities to explain a point where they just...
Yeah, he seems like fully on board, like
fully pro.
Yeah, to push it, yeah, man, 100. I wonder if he's got kids.
They had to be amputated because it was all dead tissue. You forget how bad things were before we had vaccines.
I didn't step forward for that because I don't like the assumption that if a child is unvaccinated, somehow they are of risk to everyone. And also knowing that vaccinated individuals can also be carrying and spreading diseases. I think it's very polarizing to separate the two, as if you're vaccinated, you're totally fine. You're not risking anybody anything. Unvaccinated children don't just have diseases hanging out in their bodies waiting to unload at any moment. Anybody could be spreading diseases, especially things like polio and pertussis that are not completely covered by the vaccine.
That's bang, because he's given an objective thing. He's looked at both sides. If you're vaccinated, if you're unvaccinated, you can still catch the virus and you can still spread it. You're not going to endanger anyone if you are vaxxed. You're not going to be endangered from anyone if you believe that the vaccination works straight away. Like, she's really that's nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Get me? And he had nothing to say. You see his face. He was like,
that's what I'm saying. The face of horror. He just...
face of horror, mate. Shut your mouth.
Bring him up. Cheese.
Yeah. I'd do anything to keep my child safe.
Any parent do that though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So one thing I want to say is that out of one of us, Manlike B.Dot is the only one with kids. So just for that question there, what's your stance? You would do anything for your kids to keep them safe?
Yeah.
And what would that include?
Virtually everything. Virtually.
Meaning like anything that your kids have in their system or have around them, you've researched and you know it's not going to be something that's detrimental to their health or their mental health.
Yeah, of course. Of course, bro. Like, that goes without saying. Due diligence is everything, bro. Like, don't just go for you, it goes for the people around you and all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like, that's something I would do in a heartbeat.
I agree. I don't have kids, but when I think about it, you know, the idea with vaccines is you're protecting all of us. You're protecting the group. You know, there's this idea of herd immunity. And so I think that's why it's really important to talk about, because this is an issue that doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. Because there's people that aren't vaccinated that are sick or have immune issues, or they're too young to get a vaccine, and they...
I mean, you're coming a bit wrong, man. Coming talking about herd immunity, and all up until last year, herd immunity meant natural herd immunity. It weren't anything else.
Yeah, you just let people catch that.
So he just gone on to straight vaccine herd immunity coming at it.
Yeah.
They count on herd immunity.
I think most people too, like I started out vaccinating my daughter because I believed all the same things that you said. It wasn't until she had a reaction and several reactions that I actually had to look at it differently, where I realized by continuing vaccinating for her, that actually would hurt her. And yet everyone wants me to do it for the population, as if I'm supposed to continue to sacrifice.
You can speak on a real perspective.
I love this woman, bro. You must have had to go through a madness, like your kid going through having a reaction from something that you were told basically that it was going to be safe for your kid. Like, that must have been the biggest betrayal in your life, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Mad.
Of course. Ready for going to jail and all them ones.
Yeah.
For everyone else.
Well, I mean, there are medical exemptions for vaccines. If your child has a reaction and there's concern, I think that's valid. But I think a larger population is using other justifications to not get the vaccines.
You know, a number of families who look into vaccines, they will decide to opt out of vaccines because they feel they are just not willing to risk the side effects.
But the side effects are like 1 in a million, 1 in 2 million. Whereas the side effects from the diseases, when I see all these outbreaks and things like that, I'm going to choose vaccines every time.
And that's, I think, right there is the disservice to this conversation, because it is a risk-benefit analysis, and what's unfortunate is how downplayed those risks are. I only started investigating vaccines because I ended up with a kid with an autoimmune disorder. So what does that mean? And instead of finding answers, I found more questions. The 1 in a million is not a real number.
It's really not.
Say something, B.Dot, man.
It was just what he was saying. I was just like, oh, I don't know. And then obviously when she spoke, I was like, oh, okay, I can sit back, I'm good. Like, you know what I mean?
And I think a lot of these pro-vaxxers in that, yeah, they've got these very extreme bits of misinformation that they're jumped on, and then they're pushing, and because they have certain credibilities, you know, it kind of gives the information credibleness.
Yeah. Which is dangerous.
Which is very dangerous, man.
Normally, a lot of people to obviously take a vaccination, which could be essentially doing more harm than it is good.
Yeah.
It just seems to me right now, at the present moment, yeah, that you've got one guy that's willing to open his mouth, but not too much. You've got another guy that always wants to open his mouth, but every so often he gets shut up. And then you've got the other pro-vaxxer who ain't really speaking at all. But yet the anti-vaxxers are all kind of well-versed and done their research.
You're hearing that these anti-vaxxers are talking about research stuff, where these lot is talking about what you've heard on mainstream media. 1 in a million.
Like, that's what I'm noticing. I'm just noticing now. I'm just noticing like that the personas are now starting to come out. If you get what I mean, like certain things are starting to be noticed now. You know what I mean? And I'm just noticing one likes to talk a lot but gets shut down a couple times. One wants to talk but don't want to get shut down, so only says certain things at certain times. And then you've got the lady that there at the end not saying nothing, just sitting there and listening. Really.
Zero.
But yeah, every single anti-vaxxer there actually has something to say and is relevant and it's been researched.
Yeah.
And so the more that is put out, so people think that, no, it's not when you're talking about the different kind of reactions.
I think the number you're referring to is anaphylactic shock. That anaphylactic shock is, of course, extremely rare. Whereas when you look at seizures from the MMR vaccine.
This is the thing. Every time you talk to pro-vaxxer, they say, oh, no, it's 1 in a million. They're always talking about the most extreme rare cases, all the time, to people praying. They don't talk about the common stuff that people have to go through every day, which is mad.
Yeah.
Vaccine are 1 in 3,000.
But again, this creates fear in parents.
We worry that those on your side kind of downplay those.
So my daughter had seizures. Seizures for most people are considered kind of a big deal. You know, when it happens to you, that downplayed element of, well, that's not anaphylactic shock, it's just a seizure. It is just a seizure, but seizures can be dangerous.
I don't think it's an idea of downplay. I think it comes back to what we were saying with the risk-benefit analysis. And I think the data is very clear that the benefits of giving vaccines by far outweigh the risks. So I don't think it's a question of downplaying the risks. They're there.
To sit there and say that to a woman who has had to watch her child suffer through seizures and take vaccinations that have given her several different allergic reactions that have caused such how could he
here's the thing for me here is he's talking about the data, and we know both in America and in Great Britain, numbers have been skewed and mixed and all sorts. You can't believe every number you hear, especially in these two particular places. So when he's saying the data is pretty clear, I don't particularly think it is, me personally.
Definitely not. And going back to the same point I'm saying, and look what she's saying, Number one, a seizure, it's just a seizure. Oh my gosh, you know how much emotional and psychological trauma that person goes through once they have a seizure? Madness.
This is the child.
Second thing is, you're saying the risk to the benefit, So you haven't actually even done the roundup, because if you're looking at the risk to benefit, you're not looking at the risk of having an anaphylactic shock, which is 1 in a million. You're looking at all the rest of the risks, even risk down to people having headaches, people having bone joint things, That could be 1 in 2 people, And then you look at the benefit side, So you might look at it then and think, wow, well, maybe 80 to 90% of the population will definitely have a reaction to what's going on in it. The levels are going to be different. Some of them are going to be major, some of them are going to be so minor, but they're still going to be there. And if that affects that kid because that kid has certain genetics or whatever, then, for you to say it's just nothing, it's so dismissive, especially if you work in pediatrics with kids. And you're being absolutely dismissive of information. It's disgusting, mate. Disgusting.
Yeah. But we also know that children were dying, and now they're not. And yes, there's side effects, but they're not as bad as what we had before vaccines.
I don't.
He's full of it.
Vaccines and mRNA ain't the same thing.
Here was my thing.
Here
was my thing. Don't for that particular second, when he was speaking, don't think of what he was saying. Think about how he was saying it. I don't think he believed the words he was saying. Go back a second and listen to it.
Playing the risks. Their vaccines far outweigh the risks. So I don't think it's a question of downplaying the risks. They're there.
But we also know that children were dying, and now they're not. And yes, there's side effects, but they're not as bad as what we had before vaccines.
I don't always trust my doctor's opinion.
Anytime anyone, whether it's a teacher, a friend, something I read online, my mom, the doctor, anytime anyone tells me, oh, you should do this, especially if it has to do with their health, I'm going to do research. And I would be careful about saying it's that I don't trust my doctor, but that trust has been developed over time. And so I would say in the early years when my children were very young, when they would say, this is what we recommend, yes, of course there were times where I got a second opinion or did the research on my own and asked the questions. And I think that as parents, we have to do that.
Well, it's hard to trust someone who sees your child for 10 minutes twice a year. In the end, parents know their children best. And that little office visit where your pediatrician looks at your child, he does not know your child the way you know your child. So it's really hard for whatever recommendation he's making to be really based and individualized for your kid. So if you were to come to your doctor and say, hey, my child's acting differently after this well visit appointment, something's wrong, you want them to trust that you have an established relationship and listen to you and hear you and understand that as a mother, just because you don't have the DR in front of your name, it doesn't make your opinion somehow less valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anyone, doctors are fallible and they don't know everything. And I think it's very important, like you.
So, sorry, as a parent,
Yeah.
if that question was posed to you, what would you say?
No, of course I don't. Like, I believe she's right. It's true.
Yeah.
They see you for a certain amount of time.
Exactly.
For like, a receptionist knows your kid better than the doctor does. Do you get what I'm saying?
100%. And their view should never be pushed to one side. It's like, especially a mother. You know,
And
not just,
not
I don't
only
want to
that,
say
I
it's
was
just a
thinking-
mother and fathers as well, but
I'm-
like any parent, any guardian, like you should never push their view to one side when it's
No.
regarding it.
So, and another thing that I do believe, yeah, and I don't just believe this like as in a kid. I believe that I believe this in genuine in everybody, in a lot of people. Like, but you can go to a doctor and tell them, yeah, like there's something wrong with my child, or even there's something wrong with me. I feel different. Yeah, like, and they will talk to you like they know your body better than you do, considering it's your body.
You're
You get what
telling
I'm
them
saying?
what it is.
And like it makes you want to go rah 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 rah, but at the same sense, it's your doctor, innit? Like you're gonna give them that little element of respect to talk, but you know they're chatting waffle. So like,
But to be
you're not
fair,
really gonna trust their word, are they? Especially if they're not a good doctor.
Well, to be fair, a doctor will know anatomy better than most as a normal common person, unless that person has
Yeah, but
done
do
actual
they
research.
know the aches and pains that you feel and that you know are there? You know what I mean? And you go there and say, this is what it is. And they go, oh, I don't think it's that, it's this.
Yeah, but generally what will happen is that, okay, a doctor will generally know about the anatomy. So they'll ask certain questions about your age and your other illnesses. So if you're old, then and you got joint problems, it's going to be completely different than if you were only 20-year-olds and you had joint differences. And then the reason why they're going to be different is that he understands the difference between why you get joint problems at that age and why you get it at this age. So for him, he understands the process of how your body works better. He doesn't understand how you treat your body, what you put in your body until he asks you them questions. But generally, like just like a sports physician, they would know how your muscles work better than what you know how they work, because that's what they do, innit? They understand that much better than what
I'm just saying, you know that you're feeling, you know what I mean? They don't particularly know it. When you try to describe it to them, they're still trying to tell you something different. I don't think that's right, innit? I think they should listen to you and, you know what I mean, try to work with you.
Also
not
using
against you.
expertise.
And I feel like doctors, I feel like there's a lot of GPs out there, because technically, even though they call themselves doctors, they're general practitioners, you know what I mean? Like, basically. So there's a lot of GPs out there that think they do know people better than themselves. I do believe that. And I believe that's the wrong way to be as a GP.
Yeah, I mean, if you probably looked at it in reality, you probably would find that a doctor does know more about people's bodies, like a lot more people's bodies than what people do know. Maybe probably about.
I'm just saying, I've been to my doctors, and I'll say it now, like straight up. Obviously, I'm not going to mention the doctor's name or that, but I've been to the doctors, and I'm telling you now, my doctor's just shit, bro.
I think like anyone, doctors are fallible and they don't know everything. And I think it's very important, like you were mentioning, to have a really strong doctor-patient relationship. I think that's really hard in today's 10-minute appointment age, you know, it makes it really difficult. But like as a young doctor, I think there's a lot of distrust when it comes to physician recommendations. It sucks because, you know, you spend decades training and learning, and your heart is in this place where you want to like be of service to people, and then you're not trusted. But, you know, to answer the question, you shouldn't just blindly trust anyone's opinion, your doctor or anyone.
Ironically, the doctors are the ones that.
Well,
I trust my physicians. My daughter has epilepsy, and in March, she was also diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. I went to the rheumatologist, and the rheumatologist said, we're gonna put her on methotrexate. And I looked at her, I'm like, methotrexate, that's a chemotherapeutic agent that, you know, kids with cancer get. And she's like, yes, but we use it in a low dose, and it doesn't cause harmful side effects, you have to trust me. I said, okay. And I trusted her. And I am so glad that I did. Before all this happened, she was a competitive gymnast. And she used to walk up and down the stairs like she was 90 years old. She couldn't hold a pencil in her hand. Now she's back on the bars, back on the beam, doing things which my wife and I never thought that she would do again.
Okay, it is very emotional what this guy had gone through. Obviously, he's gone through it himself, but because of the fact that he was lucky, yeah, he spoke to someone that actually cared about his case and that actually gave him the right advice. And like you're saying, that that's 1 in a million doctors.
But the only reason that happened is because he's a doctor who spoke to another doctor, because like you just said about the drug.
So
how many common
you're saying
people
it like it's peers, like because it's peer to peer.
Yeah, of course.
It will be
you've got another level of
more seriously.
Because it's somebody within that industry, right? And like as he just said, with that drug, it's just given for chemotherapy. He knew what that meant. I didn't know what that meant, but obviously him in his position, he knew exactly what that meant and said, you know, this is given to people for chemotherapy. Oh, if you trust me, okay, maybe that's some doctor-patient confidentiality type thing that they've got going on between each other where they trust each other that much, but
it's doctor to doctor, really, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, doctor to doctor, that confidentiality type thing that they got going on, but that is not something that is feasible for every other person. Every other person who ends up in that situation can't just talk to a doctor and they go, oh yeah, right, I'm gonna invest more time into this to make sure, you know, so.
Another problem is that he's gone through an experience, and because of that one experience of the doctor advising him something that's helped him, he's painted that. Now, all he thinks in his head is like, all doctors and all physicians actually would be helpful. Because he hadn't been through that thing where he's been neglected, dismissed, or hasn't been heard, he's not gonna accept the fact that that actually even exists. That's what I think anyway, from him, from what he's giving off anyway.
Oh, I do. Don't get me wrong, what he went through, you know what I mean?
Mad.
Like, you got, it's crazy and it is emotional and that. But the only thing I would have to say is he's gonna get the help he needs. He's a doctor. You know what I mean? Like he can speak to certain people. He can speak to people in much easier in higher places than what we can. It will take us a long time to speak to these people, where he could get to them rather quickly and get that sort of help rather quickly. Where, like, to be honest, like when it comes down to our level, you know what I mean, we might have to get put on some list and have to wait for God knows how long.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying? So like I hear what he's saying and I rate that, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're at a level where you can get that help rather quickly, innit?
100%.
So yes, do I trust my physicians? Yes. Do I question them? Yes. I will say, look, can we do this for her? Can we do this instead? And yes, you know, I can appreciate what you guys have said as far as people hearing you. And I think that's the biggest problem in medicine, is that time is short, clinicians aren't listening. And I think that as a pediatrician, you know, one of the most important jobs that we have is to listen to parents. And I think that if any pediatrician isn't doing that, they're not doing their job.
There is too much hostility between the two sides.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like it. I want us to be able to talk. I want us to be able to have relevant and educated conversations. And I think at the core of this conversation is what is at the core of humanity and being a parent, which is that we all want to do right by our children and we want to lead happy, healthy, and productive lives.
Yeah, I have no doubts in my mind of how I've come to my decision making on the subject, which has been tedious and thorough, to say the least. I did not expect to go down this path in my life. But I have people who won't be friends with me, who I've had death threats on social media. I might not even be able to send my kids to school depending on how legislation changes because of the way I think. It's insane to me how hostile this has become, and it's not doing a service to research and science moving forward and just the overall dialogues we have in our culture, whatever the subject.
What I think is lacking in this debate or conversation is really compassion from the pro-vax side, or pro-mandate side, I'll say. The people who refuse to acknowledge that vaccine reactions are happening, or that the things that happened to my daughter were connected because maybe it was just a coincidence and I just needed something to pin it on. You are socially isolated. You can be isolated by your family, isolated by the medical community, isolated by society as a whole because they assume you're unintelligent, uneducated, and irrational. I wish there was just more compassion that no, we don't want to make something difficult. We just want to be acknowledged. My daughter was a victim and she's being punished.
When I signed up for this, there was a little bit of trepidation coming into this because you do hear things in the media, you know, about the people who are anti-vaccine and the way they respond to physicians, and it is a little bit scary. You know, as physicians, we care about people. There's compassion on the medical community side. We wouldn't do this if we didn't care. But again, you know, I do have compassion for the families that have gone through issues with, you know, with vaccines, and I have a great deal of compassion for the families that had children die from preventable diseases. There shouldn't be any hostility, there should be discussion. I mean, we can always question things. That's how we evolve, that's how we get better. If we didn't question anything, we'd be still in the dark ages.
So, here's the thing, that last question about hostility, yeah? It's funny, because if you look at it, it's only hostility from one side. It's only hostility from the pro-vaxxers saying, we don't want them around us, we got to make sure that everyone's got to do this, like, the anti-vaxxers is like, listen, just calm down, relax, we don't need all this madness, we can just do things as normal, you know?
We just live as normal people.
I mean, it's a pro-vax people that are just very hostile, and then obviously you go higher and higher, you get to like, the presidents and the senates and prime ministers and that, and they're all trying to push mandates for taking away people's rights and liberties if they're not vaccinated. Come on, bro.
World as well.
Yeah.
That's anti-human, fam. That ain't even anti-any. That's
taking away people's human rights, I believe, because your human right to choose what you put.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, that woman, man, that brown woman here, man. I thought she was definitely the best. She was very researched. She didn't come in on passionate fire or any kind of like personal attack. She came in very intellectual, very calm, you know, very calculated in what she was saying, you know, and like she had done her research, which I loved. And it kind of shows you, I suppose, that, you know, you spend 7 years, 8 years to study being a doctor, you get to a point where you do feel you do know people better than them. That ego comes out, definitely. You're going to be thinking, well, man's done this for 7 years. You don't even know, you haven't even done it for 5 minutes. Do you even know how you breathe, fam? You get me? Them dumb little questions. But it's true, like, you know, 7 years of studying, okay, that's good. But just like if I did 7 years of going to university, studying to be a videographer, or if I didn't go to university and do it, and I did it in my own time, and I did 7 years of it, I'm still going to be a videographer either way, because I've done the research, just because it wasn't under like the government's
like the knowledge
and guidance. Yeah, it doesn't mean that these people are, their information is invaluable or they're less, you know, educated. In fact, I would say they're more educated because they've actually had to come out of their way of what they're doing in their life to go and learn something. That's hard in the older life.
Also, that one particular pro-vaccinator, due to his like situation with his daughter, you know, that it's a horrible situation. But I think, as we were saying earlier, you know, that kind of skewed his view on the whole healthcare situation. And I'm very trusting towards these people and having access to, you know, someone of a certain level of being a physician or a doctor or someone who specializes in a certain field, obviously in the healthcare sector. His view, I think, was very skewed of how he was seeing people more as numbers than actual people, and more as statistics than actual living, breathing people that, you know, react differently to chemicals.
And the last thing I was going to say to that, was, you know, the anti-vaxxers were basically saying, we don't really trust our doctors and physicians because they don't listen to us, And then the pro-vaxxers were saying, they're not listening to them at that same point. So, for the whole thing, did any of the pro-vaxxers say, you know what, I hear you, I understand what you're saying? Or were they just arguing their point? They were arguing that.
There's only
They weren't
one.
listening
There's
now.
only one, and he did argue his point when he was just like, "Well, the statistics." Well, no, actually said, "I understand what you're saying, but the statistics show." And it's just like you literally just looked me in the face and gone, "Nope."
Exactly the same thing. So you know, this goes to show, like, even on our screens here, they're told that they don't listen to their patients, and they're not even listening to the people they're having a debate with as such.
It felt more like a dictatorship from one side with heavily weighted information, with three people who were anti-vaxxers trying to give their accounts, and them trying to. It felt like they were being judged.
Yeah. So, the last thing, guys, I want to say is that this channel, Jubilee, they're very good. So if you haven't clocked any of their stuff before, make sure you jump on there. The debates are excellent. They've got loads of different kind of stuff on there.
I'm sure we'll be coming back to see a couple more of these.
Yeah, definitely.
Shout out to Jubilee, man.
Big up to Jubilee. Jeez.
Yeah, big shout to Jubilee. Big credit to them.
So yeah, guys, that's our episode done. Now, if you enjoyed that more than what we do other, then let us know and we'll get more of these involved. You get me?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I ain't gonna lie. I had fun with this.
Yeah, no, I did. Really did.
And the best way you can do that is obviously by leaving a comment in the comment section down below, or you can hit us up individually over on our Twitters. Mine is general_music_. Manlike B.Dot. Do you want to ring off yours?
Yo, it's BDOT_DA_misfit.
Big things and official Out Here TV as always.
Each and every single time. So yeah, you can get a hold of us on them social media platforms. If obviously the comment section isn't something that you're not supposed to do. Like the video, obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Once we reach over 1,000 subscribers, you never know, we might be able to provide you with something even better. But you know, let us know in the comment section down below. Do you believe what we're saying today? Are you against? Are you for? What's your opinion? Your opinion and view is always valid on this channel. We appreciate your time today. I've been GMG News. Shout out to the panel.
Yo, I hope you enjoyed today. Like, I believe it was a very good episode. I believe it's something that we should do again, me personally. You know what I mean? I second what GMG said. Like, let us know in the comments, are you pro-vax, anti-vax? You know what I mean? Why are you pro-vax? You know what I mean? Why are you anti-vax? Is there a reason? Like, if you're willing to come and talk to us about it, come and talk to us in the comments, on Twitter, you know what I mean? You know where to find us. Other than that, I am manlike, and people them. It's out.
Yes.
Also, I may put up some polls for you all to vote on as well over on my Twitter, so you guys can let us know, you know, what season did you like the most? What episode was you feeling more than others?
Yeah.
I make this show as interactive as we possibly can. I mean,
yeah, boy. And as always, do your due diligence in everything, especially when it comes to your kids. And it's out for man like Jacob. Cheers.